What's his dog's name? Girl, Girl. That's right. He's in 66. How you doing?
But these numbers were put in by the post office. And the mail comes up this way, goes around here.
Well, it's summertime. We may have travelers. In my case, you know, there's a lot of graduations going on. Good morning. It's the bewitching hour, so the Residents' Council is now called to order. Our first order of business is the approval of April's minutes. Staff or members of the council, do you have any additions, corrections, or deletions? Okay, based on that, we'll go ahead and approve the April minutes. Treasurer's report, please.
I'm Velma Finner, the treasurer, and I can report that we took in $2.04. So we are now at $1,561.12.
Thank you. I don't see members of our executive committee, but if Cole or Emily come later, we'll pick them up at that point. So we'll go right now to the accounting and finance report.
Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. The Accounting and Finance Committee tracks relevant financial and economic trends, informs you residents, and provides suggestions to management and to the board of directors of the village as appropriate. The committee is currently focusing very closely on net operating income and entry fees from new residents. Net operating income reflects the income from residents' monthly fees, less expenses incurred in providing resident services. Net operating income for the first 4 months of 2017 was slightly better than the budget at $287,000. The other piece of our cash flow is the entry fees. Entry fees provide the needed funds for major facility and infrastructure improvements, such as the replacement of the central plant last year, replacing our roofs, replacing air conditioning systems, for purchases of capital equipment, and the servicing of our bond debt. As we've reported in the past, occupancy continues to be a significant challenge. In the first quarter of the year, we had 19 move-ins and an attrition of 26, leaving a net loss of 7. However, units sold but not yet occupied increased from 14 to 21 as of April 30th over last year end. So that is indeed a good sign. Sales for the year have been strong, and we're over budget through the year, through the end of April. And the occupancy situation will improve as the actual move-ins catch up with the sales to date. With regard to the 6 new casitas, I know there's been some concern, can we really afford these things? From some quarters. The 6 completed new casita units have been occupied that we built last year, and the village has received 8 deposits for the 6 additional units to be built this year, and there will not be a war with 8 people trying to move into 6 units. 4 of these are deposits from current residents who have priority. However, they are residents only in the sense that they are paying monthly fees, but they have closed on alcove apartments. So they don't really live here, they're just paying fees, and they did this to get on the priority list so they could have priority as new residents on the new casitas. Accordingly, the entry fees from the new casitas should net us a minimum of $1.7 million thereby covering the cost of construction. Budget planning for 2018 will begin in the fall, and the committee will be meeting with the administration and the Finance Committee of the Village Board of Directors to review the 2018 budget.
Thank you, Larry. Sounds like good news. Any questions from the council members? Any questions from the audience? Thank you, Larry. I see our executive has checked in. Cole, you have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. Apologies for being late. The irony is I showed up here at 9 a.m. and there wasn't anybody here. You'd think after 10 years I'd know what time the rest of the council starts. All right, we're talking sales. Building on what Larry just reported, as he did report, we are above budget on sales. And that's a positive thing, and that's something we have not been able to say for a long time. And I am proud to report that we can continue to say that for the month of May. We are right now have 7 sales on the board. Of those 7 sales, 6 are life care, 1 is a lease. Of those 7 sales, 4 are apartments and 3 are garden homes. What I will tell you is we have 3 more on hold, of which 2 will be closing today and 1 should be closing on Tuesday. So we should end the month at 10, which will be 3 more than we budgeted and continue the trend of being ahead of target for sales. So that is good. I want to talk a little bit about parking. We have assembled a group of parking czars and are reviewing the problem and how we might approach the problem. And after a lot of thought and discussion, we're approaching it the same way you would approach eating an elephant, 1 bite at a time. The first 2 areas that we are targeting are contractors. We believe that they make up a majority of the problems that folks that live in the garden homes are seeing as it relates to parking. And that is, the good news is, that's the easiest group for us to control. We have absolute control of them, and they definitely want to remain here on property doing the jobs that they do for us. So we are going to begin working closely with the owners of the construction companies and ultimately the employees that work here on site, making sure that we, number 1, do not park behind people's driveways, effectively blocking them in and or making it very difficult to back out. The other problem that we are seeing is parking on opposite sides of the street, thus shrinking the amount of room one has to go through. So those are the first 2 things we're going to be targeting. The other area that we believe is an issue is down by the rec center, and it relates to our Osher Lifelong Learning Program. It's a very valuable program, has provided us with 2 sales that we can absolutely know that most likely would not have happened in absence of the program. So I think the program is valuable. I think it's consistent with what we promote ourselves to be as far as lifelong learners. So we want to embrace the program and ensure that it continues to be successful. We just want to manage the parking a little more effectively. We're working with Connie, who interfaces with that group directly, and looking at the idea of using trams and having them park in more traditional parking spots and being trammed down to the rec center. So that is something that is underway. I do believe if we get those 2 areas under wrap, nice, exactly the way we want it, I think most of our problems will go away. Then we can start to explore how we work with guests. Attended the city council meeting last night at Tempe. We were on the docket as for our first review of our master planning efforts, and there was one gentleman from our neighborhood here over across the way on Evergreen that showed up to express his concern as it relates to parking on Evergreen, which is primarily made up of our employees working in the healthcare center. The neighbors do not like it, and the reality of it is we don't either. We just had another employee's car get broken into the other day, and it's unfortunately a situation that it's not, we don't want to be parking there any more than they want us parking there. So the good news was I was able to get up after him and report to the council that we are actually, our plan is to reduce the number of homes on this property by 50 and increase the number of parking spots by a couple hundred. So I think we're on the same page. I think we're working in the same direction. And I met with the gentleman afterwards, And we had a real nice conversation, and I think that he felt much better after I was able to tell him really what our plans are as it relates to master planning, courtyard apartments, and such. Our second meeting will be held on June 8th, and that will be the meeting where the council votes to approve our master plan and allow us to proceed with what we want to do. And that'll also pave the way for what Larry was talking about, which is our Phase 2 casitas, building 6 additional casitas. There's clearly a demand. We have people purchasing alcoves just so they can get in line first as residents and paying monthly fees in order to get their hands on one of them. So that tells me I think we're doing something that makes sense. We have people getting in line at 3:15 in the morning to be the first one in line. And so I think we're heading in the right direction there, and looking forward to getting the approval of the council and moving forward with that program. And something else we're working with the city of Tempe on is we've talked about in the past the idea of a community garden back in the Earhart Park area. And the city of Tempe is very interested in it. We continue to dialogue. They have budgeted city dollars for 2018 to improve Earhart Park. And so what they would like to do is use those dollars to assist us in the community garden, providing the lighting, the sidewalks for ADA compliance to the garden, as well as bringing the water to the garden. And those are significant expenditures that would probably be cost prohibitive for us to move forward with it. But with them partnering with us in that, we are feeling a little encouraged about the possibility of having a community garden sometime in 2018-19. So we're moving in that direction. And that is all I have to report.
One question, you mentioned the partial solution that you've come up with, the Osher people parking. Would that also apply to, say, a special art festival or a large marketing thing taking place down in the rec center?
It would. I think the arts festival, all the great things that our residents do down in the rec center, we definitely want to highlight those and celebrate them. And so sometimes we do open it up to the public, and that brings a lot of folks in the campus, which is good, and parking down by the rec center, which is not good. So yes, we would be targeting events of that nature as well.
Thank you. Council members, do you have any questions for Cole? Audience, any questions from you? One.
Since we live down at the corner of the main drive where T-Bones, we see all the commercial vehicles come by. And the parking is such that there aren't enough red zones. So these huge trucks are having a lot of trouble negotiating that left turn.
Got it.
And yesterday they were also exiting, so there must have been a blockage up here somewhere for some reason. And the big Coke truck is about a mile and a half long, and it's the worst one. Is there any way that can be limited, that the contractors can only send up to a certain length? Because they're coming up over the curb.
Okay, that's a good question. And just people may be wondering why the delivery trucks go that direction. That is by request that we make at the front gate. What was happening was those trucks were taking a more direct route, making a left off the boulevard and going down Main Street between Nunn and Camp and the Main Street apartments. And there's a lot more pedestrian activity there. And so several years ago, we made the decision to route them the route that you're seeing them take. That's why they're going there. As far as managing the parking of the folks there, if that's causing a problem, we can easily do that. My goal is to avoid painting curbs red. I early in my career here got involved in painting curbs red, and I saw peaceful little sweet ladies turn into wild tigers and bears and almost kill me. I've been scarred and afraid to ever go back to red curbs again. But we'll take a look at it, and that's a good question, and I appreciate that. We'll explore that one a little more. Yeah, okay. That'll make it easy to see where it's happening.
Okay, and Larry has a question behind you.
I see a refrigeration truck parked out here.
Yep.
Often.
we have a freezer truck parked over by Shirley Brandt's cottage, and Shirley saw it. She heard it. Anyway, our freezer went down. It's 11 years old, and it's certain parts have gone out on it. We're going to go ahead and fix everything, even some of the parts that aren't broken, and so that's what's happening. We're in the works of getting that taken care of. Probably have at least another week of that refrigeration freezer truck where we have all of our frozen items stored.
Okay, Cole, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Next up is Parents Building and Grounds and Pool Facilities. John?
Well, good morning, everyone. Things have been going along pretty well for the Walls and Halls, Weeds and Seeds Committee, as I like to call it. Things are pretty quiet. I'll let you in on just a few of the things that are going on and look for comments from any of you. Jan Weiss brought up the subject of rear lighting for cottages that back on the external walls in the facility, I think for safety as much as anything else. Depending, let's see, the team members for this month have been asked to kind of go back and take a look at this, see what they see, and when we have our meeting next month to come together and let us talk about, do we think there's a real problem there, or is there not, and to go from there. If it does look like things are pretty black and dark, and people could get in there and not be seen, we may ask for some more lighting on the back of the cottages in that area. So if you have any comments on that or anything, let me know, or anybody on the committee, and we'll certainly take that into consideration. Rich Kulik stated that the grounds team was going forward very, very rapidly with getting ready for the winter or the summer weather. Primarily for them, that means a lot more water goes out on the ground to keep the stuff alive. So if you'll see that, that's just normal, and they try to do as much of that at night as they can so that they don't get a lot of evaporation during the sunshiny day. Brian Scott briefed us on the repair and upgrade of the 22 apartments with older bulletin boards in the hallways. That's now completed. Looked at it, they look really nice. So that situation is, at least from a beautification position, makes those a lot better to look at. We had one of the members passed on a recommendation that it might be nice to have one of those really large artificial flower decorations go into the lobby out here. We'll see. Of course, we obviously don't know where overall we're going to go with any of these kinds of things, but nevertheless, we're going to look at that. We've given it to Emily to take care of, to take a look at and see how much does it cost, the normal kinds of things. And then I don't know that anybody's against having something like that. If they are, please let us know. Otherwise, probably if it's not prohibitively expensive, we'll go ahead and put in those flowers. We're continuing with our favorite project, and that is the benches that we have out in front for the circle for folks waiting for the buses to come by and the trams. Our talking to people and all, it would appear to us that it's 50-50 on whether we want to do the raised ones or whether we want to leave it alone. So the best way to handle this is to duck the issue for a while and simply leave it as is, because we don't see people standing out there twiddling their thumbs because they don't have a place to sit. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this until the fall. We'll go back and look at it and see what's happening. Right now, it kind of looks to me like 50-50 on the benches is about right. So, if you've got a problem with it, again, let us know. Otherwise, we'll probably revisit it if there's a problem in the fall. The exciting thing to me, as a beer drinker, is the progress that's being made on the fixing up of our various and sundry, call it party locations, if I may. The Embers Lounge, the Fuego Sports Bar, if any of you didn't realize that that was the name of the new sports bar, and the beauty shop are progressing really well toward a late July, early August opening. And we think that's great. Our comment to that is the committee is unanimous in recommending that some sort of a grand opening take place sometime in the month of August, and maybe beer, something like that served, and just kind of celebrate the fact that we've got essentially three new facilities on our hands, which I think it's really great. So that's, one thing that our leader brought up, the steps over here, if you can see them, brand new, terrific. I mean, I think that'll probably remove pretty much all of the danger we have. I see a thumbs up back there, that's good, from people trying to get up those stairs who really can't, negotiate stairs very well. So I think that's a terrific add to the SKIRM, and I'm again really glad to see that. So that's all I have for this morning. Questions?
One question, John. With the opening of the new venues, are you coordinating or talking to Connie about something there, or their activities committee, Tom Rosenthal?
No, I have not. That's why I mentioned it here. I thought that this would get a lot of people aware of it. We have not, set up or tried to do anything. I want to talk to Cole about that first.
Good.
To see what, maybe that's not appropriate. I really don't know. But I think there ought to be something that we do, especially if we got all three of those, if we're lucky enough to get all three of those opening within, say, the span of a week. But I will do that.
Okay, and you say the target opening date is the end of July?
The last I heard was that it was the end of July, early August.
Okay.
I would say allow for a slip to the end of August with maybe something going on in September. With these kind of building things, you always got to give it an extra, 1 or 2% for somebody drops a hammer or whatever.
Okay,
So,
thank you. I hear a question here.
How does this affect the beauty shop? I don't understand that.
there's a lot of work being done in the beauty shop. I think there's some plumbing problems. I'm not involved in that much, so I can't really give you any details. But my understanding was that that work, by the way, is I think done. I'm not sure, but if it isn't, it's pretty close. So if you need additional information on that, I can certainly get that.
Just curious.
Okay.
Any other
Behind you.
questions from the council? Okay, got a question in the audience.
You mentioned the flowers. Where specifically were those flowers to go?
On that, the one very large table that's kind of like out in front of the fireplace. There's nothing magic about that, but because they're thinking of a large display, that on that large table would seem to be a pretty good place to put it. Anybody else, again, as usual, if you have any comments or anything concerning that, let some of us know.
Okay,
Anybody
thank
else?
you very much, John.
Thank you.
Next up is Dining Committee. Frank?
This is the May meeting that we're reporting to the council from the dining committee. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think that we've set a record. We had 76 comment cards this last month, and that's good. We really are glad for that because I think it does say that the residents know that if they do make suggestions, they're being heard, and they certainly are being read. You've heard that statement for 3 or 4 years, but they really are being read and seriously considered wherever they can be possibly executed. It did become apparent to the dining committee that there was a glitch in a delivered meal to a couple who were ill. They had ordered a meal and did not receive it. And so I wanted to share with you what the villager says now. On the back of the villager, usually it's on the back, it is on this issue anyway, and most others, it tells in dark print the phone number that people can call if they get sick in their apartment or cottage and they just simply don't feel like getting out. They can have a delivered meal from the buffet. So here's what it says then after giving that number to dial. Meal orders must be, and I'm reading this because we have new people constantly moving in. I don't know how many new people we have here today, but there'd be new people that wouldn't know this, and then people that lived here a while don't know it because they haven't needed to call on that service. So I want to read it. Meal orders must be received no later than 10 a.m. for either noon or evening delivery. Please leave your name and telephone number after the recorded message, and your call will be promptly returned to take your order. Now here's what we discovered, a gap that really needed to be plugged. What are you to do if you've ordered a meal for either noon or for evening, whichever, and it doesn't show up? How do you notify anybody of that? So there's something that we talked about this in the dining committee and decided that in the Villager, we'll amend what's written already in the weekly article in the Villager to include that the front desk, and I'm reading this so I can get it exact, the front desk, call the front desk, which the number is 0. Most people live here know that, but it'll be printed there. Call the front desk if there is a problem with the delivery of your meal at the noon or evening meal hour. But it's important to call like for a noon meal, if that's the meal you've ordered, and it isn't there be sure you call before 1 o'clock when the serving has ceased in the buffet. Or if it's in the evening, be sure you call before 6:30, before the serving has ceased. So the front desk will know how to get in touch with the person who will be carrying a walkie-talkie, and that person in charge of delivering the meals will get the message immediately. So we hope that will fill that gap. Brian Banks stated that there will not be a buffet cultural meal in May as they are still recovering. This is the dining team staff. They're still recovering from Mother's Day, the 37th anniversary party, and also the Kentucky Derby. They were really put to the test in those, and they did an excellent job. There will be one in June, however, and that will be announced. Nearly 44,000 meals were served here in April. Now, I won't be giving you those figures every month because that's not essential, but I just thought about that. If nothing else happens here at Friendship Village, except that alone, that's a lot of appetites that are really satisfied and a lot of food consumed. So anyway, that's something that I think we are interested in from time to time, but that's a lot of food that we consume here. Bob Mayo reported that Brad Lang from Morrison, this is a person that you've been seeing around here and wondering, what he's here for, but he's helping out in the catering department until a replacement is found for Glenn Rohde. Bob also said that the open table reservations are still escalating, going up, and that seems to be really well received, and happy that is working so well. Jess, our cafe manager, stated that the cafe is now adequately staffed with servers. There's still training going on, but that's good news that they've crossed the bar on that. The dining team staff was sincerely thanked for the Mother's Day offering that they offered and for the 37th anniversary party that was held with the food and the way it was served, and also the Kentucky Derby people that attended that were very well pleased with the meal. Thought it was the most Many people said it was the most outstanding meal they'd ever had. So you can't do much better than that. But anyway, we really appreciate the dining team staff because I think we're seeing a lot of improved areas from their work.
Thank you, Frank. Council members, any questions for Frank? From the audience? Yes. Ed.
In connection with the call-in meal issue, has the dining committee thought about confirmation for such call-ins? I mean, we get confirmations if you do a call-in for the fireside, whether you do it the open table or the phone, with something in your box. But if you're at home, you're not going to get a confirmation. So it might be well to have someone call someone back, say, yeah, we got your order.
Yeah, there really has been very little. In fact, we don't know how there could be other incidents where this has happened, but at this point we don't see a need to do that if it were to, beef up. But I don't think now that we'll announce this in the Villager, which we will be doing each month. At this point, we don't see a need for it, Ed. I think it would be extraneous to do it at this point.
Larry?
Yeah, just a comment there. When you do call in, they call you back
Yes.
to see what you want.
Yes,
So
that's
you
right.
know, if you've gotten a call, you know that they've gotten your order. So
Right. And I want to thank one of our area reps for pointing out to us that this did happen. So if it hadn't happened, hadn't been reported, we wouldn't have known it. So your comments really make this place a better place to live, because there are a lot of people that do give us ideas, not just in this committee, but all the committees. So keep those good ideas coming.
If I could add to what Frank is saying, this council is not a rubber stamp. It's for all of us. So please bring your comments forward to your area reps or to committee members, things of that nature. They're all appreciated. Thank you. Next up is Welcome Committee. Ron?
Mr. President and council members, good morning. We had another very nice welcome coffee this last month. We introduced 6 new residents to our village, and they were Bruce Brownlee, who is Barbara's father, Barbara from the Kelly Fitness Center, Patricia Fry, Pauline Morrison, Carol Shaffley, Archie and Elaine Kane. We've been very active hosting new residents and providing publicity for the welcome coffee, examining the new resident packet for quality and content, updating as necessary, and preparing the decorations and program for the welcome coffee. At the May welcome coffee, new residents were introduced to the community by Cole Marvin, which he's typically doing that unless he's out of town. Our program this month featured our resident, Libby Walker, who explained the plight of the Eritreans in Africa. A demonstration of an Eritrean coffee ceremony was held, and the smoke alarm did not go off, which we were eternally grateful for. The Welcome Committee is scheduled to meet again on June 8th to discuss our responsibilities towards our new residents, prepare for the June 15th Welcome Coffee, and discuss the presentation of our committee to make to the Resident Council in June. And I want to offer you the opportunity to make sure you do not miss the June Welcome Coffee, because we're going to have several of our residents putting on an award-winning skit, and you shouldn't miss it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Any questions from the audience? Thank you, Ron.
Okay.
Well, as you can tell, summer is rapidly approaching. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. I have a couple of announcements. One is that our next area residents meeting will be on Friday, the 30th of June, right here in SKIRM at 9:30 in the morning. And the other thing is that this weekend is Memorial Day. So let's try and take some time. Remember what Memorial Day is all about, and thank the ones that gave us the freedom to live like we do. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. And we're early today. Thank you.
Baby